Hello YouTube, Dave here again. A little while ago I did a video on reintroducing some 4th edition concepts into 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Specifically, the video that I looked at was reintroducing minions as a way of sort of building out encounters to make them feel more overwhelming or intimidating than they might normally be. And I got a lot of really good reception based off that video, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I want to keep this going. And there were 2 other creature classifications that you had beyond just the standard type. So you had minions, which were sort of weak. Each minion was worth 1/4 the experience points of a normal creature of the same type, and it took 4 of them to be equal to 1 creature. Today we're going to be taking a look at elite monsters and the way that they are somewhat different from the standard versions. So for this, I'm actually going to be looking at the 4th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, and specifically in the DM's Toolkit section. Specifically, it was on page, I believe, 184. So here we're going to get the information on elite and solo monsters. So what we're really looking for here are creating new elites, which is actually on page 185. So it just says here, an easy way to create a memorable villain is to convert an existing monster into an elite version. In a goblin-infested dungeon, for example, an elite bugbear warrior makes a natural chieftain. Adding a template is an easier way to upgrade. So they had templates as sort of a big way of increasing or changing monsters in 4th edition. So these are the guidelines you use to advance a monster to elite status. Number 1, you adjust the roll, so the monster's level and roll remain the same, but now it is an elite version. We're not going to worry too much about that. Then it says adjust the hit point. An elite monster has hit points equal to twice the hit points of the standard monster, plus twice, in this case, would be twice its constitution modifier. Adjust defenses, so increase up to 3 defenses including AC by 2. Focus on the creature's best defense first. If your monster has a specific weak defense, don't increase it. Adjust saving throws. All elite monsters have a +2 bonus on saving throws. Now those were sort of different concepts back then. We'll get into that in a moment. It says add 1 action point. All elite monsters have 1 action point. Adjust powers and abilities. So although your elite creature represents 2 monsters in combat, it still has only 1 set of actions each turn. In effect, you're trading 2 sets of actions for 1. Thus, an elite monster needs additional opportunities to attack, hinder, or otherwise react to the characters. And there's other things here that I would look at, like recharge when first bloodied. So bloodied is a concept that I do want to do a separate video on later. I'm not going to do that in this particular video, however. So that's something for a future installment in this series, I guess. Immediate actions, so there are sort of things that you can do there, or additional attacks, so you can have it make an additional attack on its turn. So for this, the adjustments that I'm looking to make, so like I said, defenses and saving throws were very different things back in 4th edition. So 4th edition took the fortitude, reflex, and will, sort of what were saving throws in 3rd edition, and turned them into a defense similar to armor class. So you would have, for example, you would have a base fortitude defense of 10 plus whatever your level-based bonus was, followed by your constitution modifier. So they don't do that in 5th edition. They went back to saving throws, but not only did they go back to saving throws, they went back to saving throws for each individual stat. Like in 4th edition, saving throws were really only used to end ongoing effects, and they were usually just a flat roll. You might get some bonuses towards some of them, but for the most part, that's how they were handled. So we're not going to be looking at adjusting the saving throws the same way, where they get +2 on all of them. What we're going to do is adjust defense and possibly saving throws. So we're going to get 3 different +2 bonuses we can apply. 1 will probably be to armor class, and then the other 2 might go to some of their better saving throws that you would have. For the purposes of this series, I want to show how you can sort of modify the creatures, and I want there to be some internal consistency. So I will actually be adjusting the exact same Orc Warrior that we used for the minion, and I'm going to be changing it to an elite one here. So I guess the question is, why use elite creatures in 5th edition? And for me, I just think the idea of elite creatures makes for a great sort of mini-boss type of character, which was typically how they were used. They work really well also in conjunction with minions. Because, for example, you know, it takes 4 minions to equal 1 regular standard creature. Elite creatures effectively count as 2. So for the purposes of experience point rewards or experience point budgets, if you're using that for your encounter design, a standard, an elite creature would be twice as much. So let's go ahead and find our orc stat block again here. So here we have just our regular orc stat block. So this one, like I said, we're going to be making the modifications. I'll show it how it looks when it's all said and done. So this one has an armor class of 13. So again, this would be sort of like maybe the chieftain's like second in command type of thing, or, you know, one of the best soldiers in, you know, like a goblinoid or whatever army that you want to use. Like there's just, you know, reasons that they could, you know, make for, again, memorable encounters. So we've got the armor class of 13, so we'll probably be pumping that one up to an AC of 15. So for their hit points, it gives them here as hit points of 15 with 2d8 plus 6 for their hit points if you were to roll them. So what we're going to do is actually just simply double that number, so they will have a total of 30 hit points. And again, this would be a great encounter for like a serious encounter or threatening encounter for a group of essentially first level characters. So you pair this with a group of, say, 4 minions, for example, and it's like you have 3 creatures in your combat, even though you actually have a total of 5 in terms of like the actual number of creatures involved in the combat. So again, it just makes for sort of a more interesting encounter design than just, say, having just 3 regular orcs. So that's what we're going to go with there. The speed will stay the same. The attributes, I will probably end up increasing the strength and con up to 18. So I might actually adjust those in lieu of adjusting the saving throws. We'll see how I feel about that. And then you'll have their aggressive ability that they'll still have. And then they will also have essentially multi-attack, which allows them to make 2 attacks with their weapon. And for this one, I am going to give them a ranged weapon, but what I'm probably going to do is give them like a bow or something. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm going to sort of work with the numbers here, and we'll go from there. But that's sort of the way that I'm leaning, at least at this point, before I start committing stuff to paper. So here is the finished result. So I got everything fully statted out. So we have the Elite Orc Warrior. So armor class is 15 with hide armor. Hit points work out to 34. I did increase the Constitution score as well as the Strength score. So it is where the regular stat block was 2d8 plus 6. This would be technically 4d8 plus 16 for 4 dice times 4 for the con modifier. And using the average on a 8-sided die of 4.5, it works out to 34 hit points with a speed of 30, so that stays the same. Strength, like I said, I did increase by an additional 1. The other score stayed the same except for calm, which also went up by an additional 1. I did give them the saving throws, so proficiency in strength and constitution saving throws. So those are at a +6, whereas the standard orc that we use for this Orc Warrior, Elite Orc Warrior, didn't have any special bonuses to any of their saving throws. So I also kept the intimidation the same at a +2. Their senses are the same as well, so dark vision 60 feet, and a passive perception of 10. Language is the same. And the experience points, I don't really use the challenge, like the number. I've never really used that. So I just gave experience points. So this is how much it would be if you're using a budget or if you're awarding experience points for the encounter. And I gave it the 200 because it's considered to be 2 of the standard orcs. So you get a total of 100 there, so it doubles to 200. It keeps the aggressive ability, so as a bonus action, it can move its speed towards a hostile creature it can see. And then for actions, to make up for the fact that there's only one of these instead of 2 regular orcs, I did give it multi-attack, so the Elite Orc Warrior makes 2 attacks with its great axe or short bow. So I did give it the short bow instead of the javelin. With the short bow, you can make, the Elite Orc Warrior can make more attacks. They will do less damage than with the javelins, but it's, you know, just greater opportunities for them to use it. So I thought that worked out, but we have the great axe here. Which is a melee weapon attack. It's +6 to hit, so the proficiency bonus stays the same. So 2 plus their strength modifier reaches 5 feet, 1 target, and on a hit they do 1d12 plus 4 slashing damage. I didn't want to increase by giving it like the, was it the Brute ability, which doubles the weapon. That was another option I was considering, was having them just do 2 weapon dice instead of a single one, but I feel that this is still the better way to do it with the multi-attack and just the regular standard damage. And then with the short bow, it's a ranged attack +3 to hit, so again, a slightly lower hit probability, but then the range is 80/320, so short range is 80 feet, anything over 80 and less than 320, you roll at disadvantage, and anything over 320 feet, you're just not going to be able to hit. 1 target for 1d6 plus 1 piercing damage. So yeah, I think that this is still a fair, like, boss type of creature for a group of lower level 1st or 2nd level characters to be fighting. And if you pair this with a group of 4 Orc Warrior minions, it's going to make for, you know, an interesting and probably memorable encounter, because there's, you know, these 5 targets to wade through, and while the first 4 are going to be more of a nuisance than anything else, the stronger the leader orc of that group is going to be significantly tougher. So again, I just think that this little adjustment makes the enemy types in 5th edition feel a little bit like they have more bite to them, basically. Like I said, one of the biggest issues that I kind of have with the 5th edition monsters is that they just don't quite seem up to the task of taking on the characters as it is. I mean, even with, was it 15 hit points for a standard orc, you know, a 1st level group would be able to take that out with like 2 attacks. So like I said, I like these adjustments, and it's something that I think 4th edition did really well with its creature design, or with its creature design concepts. And it feels like it was sort of a step backwards when 5th edition came out and they didn't carry these things over. Some of the creatures in the monster manual might have the word elite in their title, but they still don't seem, you know, as tough as the standard elite adjustments, which again, I don't think is overpowering at all. Like, if you're doing the experience point budget, you use the experience points there. And again, the encounter building information in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide is, it's fine until you get to the multipliers for multiple creatures section, which is just, it kind of nerfs the encounters a bit. So anyway, this is something, like I said, I would probably be doing for my campaigns going forward alongside of the minions. And so this is originally where I was considering leaving it off, but honestly, I still want to get into the subject of going with the solo monsters that we had in 4th edition as well. So that will be the next video in this series, where I take a look at using the same orc stat block that we used for the minions and for the elite. We're going to take one of these and make it a solo monster. So something that on their very own would still be a pretty tough challenge for a party of, say, you know, 1st or 2nd level characters. So hopefully you guys come back and watch that video, and hopefully you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments below what are some of the ideas you might have for adjusting monsters in your games to make them a little bit tougher, to make them a little bit more of a challenge. This is just the idea that I was looking at, but there's probably a million other better ways to do it. So let me know in the comments below what some of your suggestions are, or even ways that you would tweak the formula that I had shown here. So would you do extra damage on the attacks? Would you do the multiple attacks? Would you have them get like a bonus action that they can take, you know, as a reaction or something like that? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Take care.